So, is generative AI going to take our jobs, or is it just going to make us way better at them? I mean, it feels like that's the biggest question in the professional world right now, right? It's sparking debates everywhere. We hear a ton of speculation, but what does the actual data say? Okay, let's really dive into this.
The whole conversation really boils down to these two possible futures. On one hand, you have augmentation, where AI is this incredible partner, this tool that just supercharges our skills and boosts our productivity. But on the other hand, there's displacement, where AI is a replacement that makes all the skills we've worked so hard to build, well, kind of obsolete. Two very, very different paths. So, which one is it going to be? Well, to get past all the guesswork, a team of researchers from MIT decided to stop theorizing and start testing. They put together this amazing experiment to measure the real-world impact of giving professionals access to ChatGPT. And look, this wasn't just some simple survey. They built a really rigorous scientific study to figure out exactly what happens when you drop this powerful new tool right into a professional workflow.
So let's get into the setup. The researchers got nearly 500 college-educated professionals and gave them specific writing assignments, with real incentives. So this wasn't about just messing around with a chatbot, it was about seeing how it performed on realistic work tasks when there was actually something on the line.
And these weren't students either. We're talking about marketers, grant writers, consultants, people in HR, folks whose jobs really depend on being able to communicate well. The researchers even designed tasks that were specific to their roles, like drafting press releases, reports, and, those tricky emails.
And the design of this study was just super clever. First, everybody does a task to get a baseline for their skill level. Then, they randomly split the group in half. One half, the treatment group, gets access to ChatGPT. The other half, the control group, doesn't. Then everyone does a second task. And here's the crucial part. Independent experts graded all the work without knowing who used AI. It's the perfect way to isolate the impact of ChatGPT.
So, what happened when the grades came in? Well, the results were, frankly, staggering. You can really sum it up in 3 words. The professionals who used ChatGPT got faster, they got better, and, maybe the most surprising thing of all, their work led to a fairer outcome. Let's start with speed. Just look at this number. Having access to ChatGPT slashed the average time to complete a writing task by 40%. A job that took the control group about 27 minutes on average took the ChatGPT group only 17 minutes. That is a massive jump in productivity. But here's the kicker. They weren't just faster. Their work was actually better. The quality, as judged by those outside experts who didn't know who was who, went up by an average of 18%. So this is so important. It wasn't a trade-off between speed and quality. ChatGPT gave them both.
But honestly, the most profound finding might be this one, and it's a direct quote from the study. The researchers found that the performance gap between the highest and lowest skilled workers was just dramatically reduced.
So what does that even mean? It means that people who struggled the most on that first task saw the biggest improvements in their scores when they got to use ChatGPT on the second one. It was like a skill leveler. It closed the gap between less skilled and more skilled writers. It didn't just make the best people better, it brought everyone up.
Okay, so all of this sounds like a dream scenario, right? But the researchers, they wanted to know more. They wanted to understand how people were actually using this thing. What did this new, high-powered partnership between human and machine really look like up close?
Were people using it to brainstorm ideas? To get a rough draft that they would then polish and perfect? Was it this beautiful collaborative dance between human expertise and AI suggestions?
The answer was nope. Not really. The data showed that for the most part, people were just directly substituting the AI's work for their own. It was a lot less like a collaboration and a lot more like a delegation.
And this chart here, it breaks it all down. A full third of users, 1 in 3, submitted the AI's first draft with 0 changes. More than half just made some light, superficial edits. Only a tiny fraction, about 14%, really dug in and did substantial editing. For most people, the AI's first draft was the final draft.
So the experiment gave us this powerful snapshot of AI's immediate impact. But the researchers wondered, would this one experience actually change how people behave in their real jobs, long term?
So they didn't just pack up and go home. They followed up with everybody, both the group that used AI and the one that didn't, a few weeks later, and then again a couple of months later, just to see if anything had stuck. And wow, the results showed a clear, lasting effect. 2 months later, the group that had been introduced to ChatGPT in the experiment were way more likely to be using it in their actual jobs. That one single, positive, hands-on experience was enough to drive long-term adoption.
All right, so let's just recap the big takeaways here. First, the evidence is pretty clear. Generative AI can give a massive boost to both the speed and the quality of professional writing. Second, it seems to act as an equalizer, helping reduce skill gaps. But third, the way people use it is often more about substitution than collaboration. And finally, just trying it once in a structured, positive way can be enough to turn someone into a regular user.
Now, we've got to add one really important caveat here. The authors of the study are very clear that these tasks were kind of designed to play to ChatGPT's strengths. They were creative, they didn't require deep, specific company knowledge, and they didn't need any fact-checking. Real-world tasks are often a lot messier, and that could definitely change the results.
Which really leaves us with this fascinating question for the future. In a world where an AI can spit out a high-quality first draft in just a few seconds, what does it even mean to be a great writer, or a great marketer, or a great consultant anymore? Maybe, just maybe, the most valuable skill is no longer creating from a blank page, but learning how to guide, edit, and elevate what the machine creates first.